Did you know that 90% of the world's motorbikes and scooters are sold in Asia? But get this, only 5% of those are electric, and that figure is expected to rise to 30% by 2030. That's 10 million two-wheeler EVs sold by the end of the decade in India and Southeast Asia alone. It's not just a mass movement, but a huge opportunity for investors and entrepreneurs. Let me show you how to take advantage of this booming market. Here's your Moniify Playbook. There's a quiet revolution underway on the streets of cities like Mumbai, Jakarta, and Hanoi, as governments push for emissions goals from the 2016 UN Paris Climate Change Agreement.
L'accord de Paris pour le climat est accepté.
And consumers seek sustainable products. Hundreds of two-wheeled electric vehicle startups are popping up all over Asia. In India alone, they've jumped from 54 to 150 startups in just 3 years. While the four-wheeled EV boom is led by Tesla in the US, BYD in China, and Volkswagen in Europe, the two-wheeled EV surge is very much made in Asia.
We've seen the trend globally where there's strong traction in China, Europe, US, and India for electric vehicle trend in general. In Indonesia, currently two-wheeler electric vehicle penetration is at about 1%, so it's similar to India in 2021. And we believe with the right support on the customer adoption and the government side, it can quickly triple in the next 1-2 years. So Indonesia has about 137 million motorcycles, about 6 million motorcycle sales a year, and it creates opportunity for disruptions as consumers and businesses adopt the products.
China is the market leader for two-wheeled EVs. But the biggest investment opportunities are in countries like India, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. In both India and Indonesia, demand is expected to grow by more than 60% per year through 2030. But why now? Although transportation contributes just 10% of Asia's greenhouse gas emissions, rapid electrification is crucial as income and vehicle ownership increase. And governments are supporting EV adoption with ambitious targets, subsidies for consumers, and tax benefits for manufacturers. For example, India aims for 30% EV penetration by 2030. Indonesia plans to ban all sales of fossil fuel motorcycles by 2040. And Thailand offers consumers a $300 subsidy for electric motorcycles. There's also a specific lower tax for manufacturers that assemble locally. Note that all three countries are major fuel importers. And on average, EVs are emerging as the cheaper alternative to traditional vehicles. Typically, a gas-powered motorcycle would cost you $1.67 worth of fuel for every 100 kilometers, while EVs would cost you 1/6 of that in electricity. The catch, it can take a while for those savings to balance out because of higher upfront prices, mainly due to batteries. That's where battery leasing comes in. That means that you pay for the vehicle up front, but the battery cost is spread out over time. So technically, the manufacturer still owns the battery and you just pay a monthly fee for it. Here are some of the leading battery leasing companies to look into. And we can't forget about charging those batteries. As EV adoption grows, so does the need for charging infrastructure. India is boosting domestic battery production, and Indonesia plans to invest $1 billion in charging stations by 2030. With this surge, have we reached a Tesla moment where two-wheeled EVs are more widely accepted? South and Southeast Asia are home to a young, growing urban middle class with rising disposable incomes, fueling demand for transportation as more people move to cities. In India, about 1/3 of the population is middle class, and 2/3 are under 35 years of age. Now, similar trends can be seen in Southeast Asia, where lower fuel costs drive most consumers' interest. But in India, sustainability ranks as one of the top 3 priorities, with a report by consultancy firm McKinsey noting that an estimated 86% of consumers are considering buying an electric vehicle. So with so much interest, let's see which companies are ready to take consumers out on the road. Ola Electric just became India's first dedicated two-wheeled EV company to go public.
Tesla is for the West. Ola is for the...
Their flagship scooter is the Ola S1 series, priced between $900 and $1,400 and with a range of up to 190 kilometers. That's the distance that it can travel before being recharged. The company plans to start delivering their Roadster e-motorcycle in early 2025. Despite facing multiple speed bumps since listing, including social media controversies and regulatory scrutiny, Ola Electric still controls a third of India's $1.2 billion two-wheeled EV market. Now moving further east, Vietnam's EV poster child is VinFast. It manufactures both electric cars and scooters, offering 7 two-wheeler models priced from $700 to the most expensive going for $2,400. However, its stock has seen volatility, tumbling from $68 in August 2023 as the company faces some financial challenges. VinFast's founder, however, remains committed, having personally invested $2 billion to help the company, which has swiftly made inroads from the Filipino market to the UAE. Look out also for lesser-known Southeast Asian startups joining the EV scene, like Jakarta-based Charged Asia, which offers two-wheeled EVs for sale and for a monthly subscription.
We see the younger segment of customers, in your millennials and your Gen Z, they are very open to subscription and leasing because they also come from a generation where, why should I own if I can just use it for a fee?
They plan to expand operations in the region backed by a recent $40 million investment.
We are really at the right place at the right time. And India has actually created a very good blueprint for us and the rest of the world to follow.
And then there's Singapore-based Ion Mobility as another e-motorbike contender in the market. They're backed by India's TVS Motor, a major automobile player. These are just two of the many startups emerging in South and Southeast Asia. But here are a few more names that I would watch out for. In the Middle East, Dubai's One Moto is pushing for EV adoption with their e-motorcycles and scooters, mainly used for daily commutes and deliveries, and it operates in 13 countries. Success for these companies will ultimately depend on how well their vehicles perform. Let's find out.
Practical point of view, the city commuting, the flexibility, the charging, the parking, all of that led me to, it was more practical for me to buy a two-wheeler than four-wheeler because, like I said, it's perfect for the lifestyle in Bangalore.
Not everyone shares Sheetal's enthusiasm about two-wheeler EVs. I read some conversations on Reddit where consumers feel that EVs still have a long way to go. They also say that models could improve, and that the tech is still evolving, and that battery costs need to come down. I hope that EV entrepreneurs and investors are taking note of this. And then there's the issue of range anxiety. So that's the fear of running out of battery with no charging station nearby. Imagine riding your EV scooter on the outskirts of Bangalore and watching your battery drop on the screen and not knowing where your nearest charging station is. This lack of charging infrastructure is a common challenge for EV owners in Asia. In India, a third of consumers feel that the existing charging infrastructure is not enough, and 58% want better public charging options. Cheaper battery tech and large-scale charging facilities will be critical for the success of electric vehicles. Even so, investors see potential in EVs, so let me show you some ways in which you can drive home some returns. Here are 4 routes that EV investors can take. First, I would look at public companies like Ola Electric and VinFast on a stock exchange, or more established automakers like Bajaj Auto, TVS Motor, Hero Moto, Yamaha, Honda, Suzuki, which are all diversifying into two-wheeled EVs. I'd also watch out for upcoming IPOs like Ather Energy, Tata Passenger, Electric Mobility that are all getting ready for their debut on the stock exchange. Second, most of the startups that we've discussed are private, so investing in these companies requires a high entry cost. However, if you're not sure which individual companies to invest in, you could consider ETFs. Remember, an ETF holds a diversified basket of stocks and trades on a stock exchange just like any stock. Other ETFs include Indian firms that cover the entire EV value chain. For something a little different, there is PICE, which lets retail investors put their money into green energy assets. So you could own a fraction of an asset from a solar project, or monthly rentals from EV leases. We have nearly reached the end of our journey. For four-wheeled EVs, Tesla has mastered the art of premiumization and lifestyle appeal. But imagine a Tesla two-wheeler. That would have to be all about value and volume. As governments push into EVs, the race is on for entrepreneurs and investors to dominate the two-wheeler EV market. Here is your entire Moniify Playbook, full of must-know terms, top public companies, traditional automakers entering EVs, startups, ETFs, and upcoming IPOs. So, will you take the plunge and invest in two-wheeled EVs? Or do you think that the market still has miles to go? Links to all the information are in the description below. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep up with the Moniify Playbook.